Hi everyone, glad you're here. Today we'll talk about something that often looks perfectly fine on paper, but can cause a lot of headaches in practice. The arbitration clause in contracts with Russian counterparties. Many companies treat arbitration wording as a routine formality. You pick a template, insert a few phrases, and move on. But when a dispute actually happens, those few sentences can decide whether your case is handled efficiently or gets stuck somewhere between different jurisdictions. So, let's break down what works and what doesn't when drafting arbitration clauses with Russian businesses. First, let's clarify what we mean by arbitration. In simple terms, arbitration is an alternative to court, a neutral forum where parties can resolve disputes privately, often faster, and with more flexibility. That sounds good in theory, but in cross-border settings, the effectiveness of arbitration depends heavily on the exact wording of your contract. A common pitfall is vague or inconsistent wording. For example, saying all disputes shall be settled in arbitration under Russian law sounds clear, but in practice it raises questions. Which arbitration institution? Where will the hearings take place? What procedural rules apply? Such uncertainty may make the clause unenforceable or lead to parallel proceedings in different venues. Now, what kind of wording actually works when your counterparty is in Russia? The first rule: be specific. Always name the arbitration institution, such as the Russian Arbitration Center or the ICC, and include the seat of arbitration, for instance, Moscow, London, or Stockholm. This single detail defines which country's laws will govern the process and how the award can be enforced later. Second, make sure your clause matches the model wording recommended by your chosen arbitration institution. Russian courts, especially when enforcing foreign awards, often look closely at whether the clause clearly expresses the party's intent and doesn't contradict mandatory Russian procedural rules. Simple and direct language goes a long way here. Third, watch out for mixed or hybrid clauses, those that combine arbitration with court jurisdiction. For example, phrases like arbitration in case of disagreement but litigation for debt recovery may lead to fragmented disputes. Russian courts usually consider such clauses invalid, as they undermine the independence of the arbitration agreement. Another point: enforcement of foreign arbitral awards in Russia. Even when the arbitration itself runs smoothly abroad, you still need Russian courts to recognize and enforce the result. This requires the clause to comply with Russian legislation and international treaties. Poor wording may expose you to delays or refusals at this stage. So, to summarize the practical approach, choose a recognized arbitration institution. Define the seat of arbitration clearly. Use the institution's official model clause as your starting point. Avoid mixed wording or informal phrasing. Check consistency between your arbitration clause and other parts of the contract, especially dispute resolution and governing law sections. When all these are done right, you dramatically reduce the risk of disputes about the dispute process, which saves time and money when problems arise. In our daily work, we help clients draft, review, and negotiate arbitration clauses that actually deliver protection, not just look good in contracts. The key is clarity. Understanding how Russian law interacts with international arbitration mechanisms and tailoring wording that fits the specific business relationship. Proper drafting isn't just about legal precision, it's about confidence. It lets both sides know that if something goes wrong, there's a fair, predictable way to resolve it. That's it for today's discussion. A short but essential look at the strengths and pitfalls of arbitration clauses with Russian counterparties. If this helped clarify a few things, great. That's exactly our goal, to make complex legal matters more understandable and practical. Thanks for being here today, and see you next time.